In the year 1220, a city of 400,000 souls sat behind walls as old as Empire Samarkand, wealthy, proud, seemingly unshakable, and yet, in the span of weeks, it would vanish from history, not through luck, not through betrayal, but by a methodical force few had ever seen. This was Genghis Khan's Mongol army, and what happened here would ripple across the world for centuries. Welcome. Here, we tell the stories of history that shape civilizations, not the tales of kings as gods, but of systems, choices, and the quiet discipline that bends the fate of nations. We explore why history unfolded the way it did and why one decision can change everything. This is not just the story of a city falling. It is about why empires, no matter how mighty, are vulnerable when structure meets strategy. Why Samarkand, a jewel of trade and culture, would fail against a force that, on the surface, seemed smaller, less sophisticated, almost ragged. Why a disciplined army, organized not by wealth but by efficiency, could erase a city without mercy and without chaos. To understand Samarkand's fate, we must first see the world Genghis Khan inherited. The Mongol steppe was a land of scarcity. Survival depended on mobility, speed, and coordination. From a young age, Genghis honed a society where loyalty was earned, not inherited. Every horse, every rider, every arrow had purpose. Discipline was the law. Improvisation was survival. Meanwhile, Samarkand thrived on a very different logic. It sat at the crossroads of Silk Road trade. Its walls were thick, its markets teeming with silk, gold, and spices. Its people confident that wealth meant security, but wealth is static. Strategy is dynamic. Samarkand's rulers assumed that the Mongols were barbarians who could not sustain long campaigns. They believed walls, numbers, and city defenses were sufficient. They were wrong. The pressure had been building for years. Genghis had united the steppe tribes into a single, highly disciplined force. He did not rely on brute force alone. He understood logistics, intelligence, communication. Before Samarkand, he had already reshaped the map of Central Asia. Cities fell not by luck but by a combination of psychological warfare and careful calculation. By the time he arrived at Samarkand, he had observed every pattern, every weakness, and every opportunity. The critical moment came not at the walls, but in the decisions behind them. Genghis Khan had a choice: bypass Samarkand and march deeper into Khwarazmian territory, or commit to a siege that would test the limits of his army. Most armies of the time would have hesitated. Siege warfare is slow, expensive, risky, but the Mongols had perfected the art of anticipation. They encircled Samarkand, cutting off supply lines, intercepting messengers, and controlling the surrounding plains. Then, instead of assaulting the walls immediately, Genghis employed deception. Fake retreats, false attacks, psychological pressure. He starved the city of certainty before he ever fired a single arrow. It was a subtle, almost surgical approach. The walls remained intact, but the city's resolve was cracking. Inside Samarkand, fear and indecision grew. The leaders debated whether to sally out, negotiate, or endure. Each option carried massive risks. A premature sortie could destroy their armies. Negotiations could expose weaknesses. Endurance might fail against an enemy who thrived on patience. Meanwhile, the Mongols operated like a clockwork machine. Discipline restrained impulse. Scouts reported every movement. Messengers relayed every piece of intelligence. Every night, the city's defenders woke to silence punctuated by distant drums, smoke, and the ever-present threat of cavalry on the horizon. The Mongols were not reckless conquerors, they were engineers of fear, and fear is as effective as steel. At the same time, disease and scarcity began to seep into Samarkand grain. Grain stores dwindled, water was rationed. Traders and citizens alike felt the slow tightening of an invisible noose. Genghis understood a critical principle: the human mind can break before the body. Patience was his weapon, time was his ally. Weeks later, the walls of Samarkand finally fell, not because of overwhelming force, but because the city had been outmaneuvered at every level. Genghis Khan did not storm every gate. He applied pressure, adapted, and waited for cracks to appear. When they did, the Mongols struck with precision. Reports described streets emptying, markets silent, and palaces abandoned. Resistance was sporadic, fragmented, and ultimately futile. By the time Samarkand surrendered, the Mongols had achieved total control. Preserving the city's core infrastructure were useful, but dismantling the systems of resistance. The victory was complete, but it was achieved quietly, through planning and patience. Not through chaotic slaughter though, destruction did follow. It was the product of disciplined inevitability. The lesson is clear: Genghis Khan did not rely on luck or sheer numbers. He relied on understanding systems, exploiting patterns, and enforcing discipline on his forces. The fall of Samarkand was not sudden. It was the inevitable outcome of decades of preparation, observation, and strategic calculation. The consequences extended far beyond the city walls. Samarkand had been a hub of trade, culture, and political influence. Its fall destabilized the region, sending shockwaves across Persia, Central Asia, and beyond. Merchants rerouted, armies recalibrated, and rulers reconsidered the limits of their defenses. It also set a precedent for Genghis Khan's campaigns. Cities were not obstacles, they were problems to be solved systematically. Fortifications could be neutralized, populations subdued, and empires reshaped without unnecessary risk. Over time, the Mongol method, discipline, intelligence, logistics became a model that changed military thinking worldwide. Samarkand became a symbol, a reminder that vulnerability is not measured in walls, but in rigidity. The ripple effect of that siege influenced commerce, politics, and military strategy for decades. The fall of one city redefined the possible. Samarkand was not just a city that fell, it was a lesson in inevitability. A reminder that preparation, discipline, and understanding systems can outmatch wealth, size, or pride. History is not made by luck or impulse. It is made by decisions that align with reality. What other moments in history show the quiet power of discipline over chaos? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you want more stories of strategy, systems, and the forces that shaped our world, subscribe and join us for the next journey into the past. Because history, when understood deeply, is never random. It is inevitable.